Hi, I'm Jordana Globerman, and I'm the creator of Bear, a graphic novel, and New Arrival, a short comic that will be selling at TCAF. And you're listening to True North Country Comics Podcast.
Welcome to a special edition of the True North Country Comics Podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book creators and supporters. It's May 5th, 2021. I'm John Swinimer. If you want to drop me a line, you can contact me at john@truenorthcountrycomics.com. These podcasts are published to celebrate the exhibitors of this year's virtual edition of the Toronto Comic Arts Festival. TCAF is an annual event gathering comic book creators from around the world to promote broad and diverse voices towards the betterment of the medium of comics through panels, keynote exclusives, and just basically enjoying the fun of comics. On this episode, I chat with Jordana Globerman about Bear and New Arrival at TCAF 2021. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. It's also available on the True North Country Comics channel on YouTube. I invite you to like and subscribe. Jordana is based in Ottawa, Ontario, who brings caring, creative transformation to services, products, and organizations as a graphic facilitator, strategic designer, and service designer. Her newest projects, on display at TCAF 2021, include Bear and New Arrival. And so, without further ado, here's my chat with Jordana Globerman about Bear and New Arrival at TCAF 2021. So, Jordana Globerman, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Thanks for having me, John.
I appreciate your time. What I normally do to start off the interview is ask the creator about their first comic book. So I'm wondering if you remember, what was the first comic book that you read?
For sure. Actually, it was Superman. My dad kept all his old Superman comics. He has them, going back to his childhood in the 60s. And so I grew up reading the original Superman comics, and I loved them. They got me really into comic books.
Cool. Lots of good influences there, that's for sure. But I'm wondering who or what influences your work today?
So I don't do a lot of superhero comics now. Definitely more influenced by a lot of graphic novels. I love the work of Craig Thompson, like pieces like Blankets and Habibi. I love how honest they are, but I also really love the line work. And I also really love Walter Scott's work. He writes Wendy, and it's just really funny and again, really like honest and approachable. I like both of those.
Great. Good stuff. So we're here talking about your virtual exhibition that's taking place at the Toronto Comic Arts Festival. I understand you have two books that you're talking about, Bear and New Arrival. I wonder if you could talk a bit about them and maybe the origins of each.
Yeah, for sure. So Bear's actually my first graphic novel. I'm selling issue 1 during TCAF. And I'm still kind of considering how I'm going to approach in terms of publishing. I am looking for publishers as well. But Bear was a project that I started years ago now. And it was first based in sort of vignettes, based in my own personal experience. I'd been trying to write a graphic novel during my master's, and when I wrote out a whole plot and then started paneling, I found it really difficult to sort of stick with the story. It just took so long. So I'd started this as sort of vignettes that were really close to my own experience, and through that I was able to develop these original characters and sort of its own very different plot line. But as a result, it took like a lot of time, a lot of revision. So it has been a personal project that I've been really committed to over the course of, I'd say, about like 3 years.
Great. Yeah, I took a quick look at it, and it looks like there's a lot of potential personal stuff. I understand you went to the United Kingdom from Canada and did some studies there, so I could see that there might be some personal experiences you're relaying there in that graphic edition for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And it's sort of taken on its own narrative at this point. And I'm excited. I'll be sharing issue 1 of it. So it's the first 36 pages. And I'll also be sharing, you mentioned New Arrival. Mm-hmm. And that's a short comic, again, rooted in personal experience. That's where I get a lot of my inspiration from. And it's about pregnancy and motherhood. I actually just had a baby 3 weeks ago. So
congratulations. Yeah. That's great.
Thanks. I think he's been quiet downstairs with my mom, so he probably can't hear him. But yeah, I mean, pregnancy is something you don't read about a lot in comics, and so many people experience it, and it's such a unique experience, especially during a pandemic. It's so different for everyone. So I wanted to capture a lot of those feelings I had, and I've done so they're all color pages, and they're quite abstract. They almost border on like a zine in terms of how abstract a lot of the panels are. But I'm really proud of it. I think it's pretty evocative. So.
Very good. Very good. Now, I know that a lot of, when I have talked to other creators, they usually say speak from experience or create from experience. So with that in mind, I'm wondering if you have any advice to give to someone who might want to make their own comic book.
Yeah, I would say start small and start in the familiar, like you're saying. It could be your own experience. It could be the experience of someone close to you, but definitely something I'd say that you have like a personal or emotional connection with will probably keep you invested in it when you're just starting out. The other thing I would say is like with Bear, I found it very helpful to start with sort of vignettes with the same characters and then see how those might fit together into a full narrative. There's actually a novel I really like called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and the author wrote that in the same way. So she wrote a bunch of sort of short stories, and through that, it allowed her to better understand the characters and how they would interact. And it sort of, I think, gets you far enough along that you feel rooted in the narrative and you can really sort of complete a larger work.
Very good. What about the tools that you use? Do you use anything special that you'd recommend?
No, I'm pretty basic. I use pen and ink, so I use like Pentel brush pens for most of my work, black and white, and then I refine it digitally. I did just get an iPad, so I might do more work with my iPad. Yeah, it's pretty fun. And then I like to do sort of splash pages of watercolor. I like painting quite a bit as well, and it's a bit labor intensive. We're not all like an Alex Ross, so we can't all do full watercolor comic books. But I use it for like splash pages as well. It's kind of fun to break.
So a little bit of everything, I guess you could say. Multimedia.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Very good. Now, I know in your other role that you have, I was looking at your website, you call yourself a graphic facilitator. And I'm wondering if you could talk a wee bit about that. What is that really all about?
Sure. Yeah. So that is a way of capturing conversations through illustration. So what I do is I go in live to events. Now I'm doing most of it digitally. Well, not most of it, all of it digitally. But what you do is you listen to like a presentation or a keynote address, and you draw the key messages up through visual metaphors. So at the end, you're left with a mural, basically, that is like meeting minutes. So it does capture all the content, but in a way that's very visual, and that can help people remember things better because a lot of people are visual learners. It can help you link themes visually, and then it's like a really nice takeaway at events. So it's something I got into when I was in the UK, and I worked for a company doing it there. And my first one was actually at a TED Talk in Geneva.
Oh.
So yeah, and TED uses it a lot. And it's sort of like those whiteboard animations. I think that's what a lot of people think of when they see it.
Right.
But it's a really kind of fun way to capture the notes of a meeting, and it's a nice way to sort of inject some creativity into the corporate world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can speak from experience. I've been in so many meetings that it just drives you, to sleep, and it doesn't engage. And I'm hopeful that perhaps as we move out of this pandemic and maybe back into a boardroom, hopefully it'll be more entertaining or more invigorating or more engaging. And this might be an answer for some of those people who are starting to rethink work and getting ideas across.
Yeah, totally.
Hopefully. We'll see how it goes. Knock on wood. So we've talked about Bear, new arrival. Wondering if you have anything else that you'd like to talk about, anything coming down the road that you're able to chat about.
Yeah, for sure. So pretty early days, but I am starting to think about my next sort of full length graphic novel, and I think I will be moving more into sort of the fantasy or magical realism world. So I'm working on that, but I think it's going to be a little bit slow going with a new baby. And I am also, like I said, hoping to release Bear like in its entirety, either through a publisher or through a Kickstarter later this year. So I'll be sharing information about that with followers and stuff.
Great. Now, I know that this event this year, Toronto Comic Arts Festival, is virtual, but I wonder if you have any past experience at previous festivals or conventions that you like to share. Any favorite moments?
Yeah, for sure. A few. I mean, the first one that I went to was Thought Bubble in the UK, and I wasn't exhibiting at that. I was just attending, but it was an amazing experience. It's just very rare to walk into a room and have so many people that you can nerd out with about so many different subjects. Is amazing. Definitely had some long conversations about early Superman comics with people.
Cool.
But that was amazing. And also Montreal Comic Arts Festival, have some nice memories there. I was a lecturer there in 2016, so that was a lot of fun as well.
Very good.
It was very rainy.
That's one event I hope to get to once we're all out of this stuff. That sounds like it's a very lively bunch there.
Yeah, things in Montreal are always lively. So
Cool. So one of the important parts of conventions is talking to people. It's also about selling books. So I'm wondering, where do you recommend people go to find more about you online, and where to purchase your books?
Sure. So actually during TCAF, I will be an exhibitor. So I will have a booth there, and I would love people to stop by my booth. I'll be selling, like I said, like you mentioned, Bear and New Arrival, but I'll also be selling some prints and stickers and things like that. So that would be a great way to buy stuff in the next week. And then for anyone else who's interested in my work, at this point, I mostly sort of share my stuff through Instagram. So my Instagram is Jordana Comics, and I have a link there to an online shop, which I do need to update, but I'll be doing that after TCAF for sure.
Great. Well, Jordana, those are all the questions I have for you, but I'm wondering if there's something I didn't ask that you'd like to get across in this interview.
No, I think, this has been a great interview, great questions. I guess I'd just say, like, to anyone who's interested in making comics, the first step is just to do it. And I think of any art form, it is one where it does not need to be perfect. There are so many different styles of drawing, different styles of writing and expression that it's really quite a freeing genre. So I would just say to anyone who is keen to make something to just go ahead and do it.
Thanks to Jordana for the chat. You can discover more about Jordana on Instagram at Jordana Comics and online at jordanagloberman.wixsite.com/comics. And thanks to you for listening to the True North Country Comics podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts, and please leave a good rating. Also check out the TrueNorthCountryComics.com website and follow along on Twitter at True North Comics. True North Country Comics is now on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel. Please send your feedback to John at TrueNorthCountryComics.com. Thanks again for listening, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics Podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2021.